Welcome. This is Real Healing, Real Awakening with Phil Golding.
Welcome to part 3 of an introduction to Real Healing, Real Awakening. This episode will focus on steps 4 and 5 of the 5-step process for healing, wisdom and empowerment. I hope you have enjoyed and benefited from the first 2 shows. If you have any questions that you would like covered in the following shows, please feel free to email them to me. I would be glad to include you in the show. You can be anonymous, or you can add your name to it if you like. It's up to you. These first 3 shows are designed to cover the core philosophy of real healing, real awakening, which is why they are so jam-packed full of information. They are designed to be a valuable addition to your self-help library. As a refresher, I will run through the 5 steps for you before beginning my discourse on the 4th step. The first step of the 5-step process is total self-acceptance, which, in its deepest form, is unconditional love. The second step is total personal responsibility, which is really about the wisdom of love. These first 2 steps provide the foundation for the process. Steps 1 and 2 are like yin and yang. It is accepting total personal responsibility to love yourself unconditionally. In other words, to be the loving and responsible guardian of your own human self. When you can compassionately accept your human flaws, when you forgive yourself for your human weaknesses, your fears and insecurities, it is much easier to then face yourself and take responsibility for your life. Self-condemnation can be removed enough for healing and growing to be initiated into your life. Through these 2 great principles, or laws of consciousness, you will come to realize that you and every other human being are fundamentally worthy of unconditional love, without exception, even though you are human. Unconditional love is a universal life force that flows through every human being. It is something that is bigger than all of us, and yet it is something that you can aspire to be, and your journey of consciousness is the journey towards being that ideal of love. The first place to start is to take care of yourself. You are your life. By making peace with yourself, by accepting yourself just as you are, and by accepting the responsibility to learn what it takes to do this, sets the right foundation for everything in your life to start falling into place, including your relationships with others. The 3rd step is let go and tune in, which is about putting steps 1 and 2 into practice when it comes to looking after your inner self. It is about healing and clarity. The 4th step is living in the now. This is about how to put that clarity into action as you create your life in the world. The 5th step is live the process. This is about the recognition that this process has no end point. It is about looking after and evolving your mind throughout this particular life and beyond. So let us have a deeper look at steps 4 and 5, and particularly how to create the life that you want. The condensed summary of step 4 goes like this. As human beings, we can only act in the now. We cannot act in the past or in the future. Regret and worry, therefore, is confusion that disempowers us. We heal the painful memories of the past in the now. we access our potential in the now. The power of conscious awareness, aligned to the life force of unconditional love, is accessed by accepting and working with all that we experience now. In the now, we can learn from the past, make plans and set goals for the future, and then ask the universal life force, our higher self, to partner us in this creative process via intuitive insight and other forms of guidance. With experience and faith, we come to know this greater power and so consciously draw on its unlimited strength. When we forget and slip back into old self-defeating ways, we can pick the process up again at any time and learn from our human mistakes. Every day is a new day. With this realization, our life simplifies even more, and we find we have a greater ability to make the most of our opportunities every day. It does not matter what direction we take in life, or what obstacles are in our path. By working the steps in the now, and therefore staying connected to the guidance of our higher self, in time the right way is revealed. End of summary. You can only manage your life from the point of now. You cannot act yesterday or tomorrow. When trapped emotional energy is triggered, it may have come from years past, but it is flowing through your consciousness in the now. You may set an important goal for the future, but you can only make your way toward achieving that goal by what you do now, and the now in every day until you get there. Whether it is emotional healing or achieving your goals, skillfully managing what you are experiencing in every moment will determine your success. There is no other reality but now. The mind, lost in fear and delusion, thinks that worrying, for example, is actually doing something about the future, when in reality, all the mind is doing is busying itself in futile thinking, whilst the opportunity to make the most of the present moment is neglected. So much time and opportunity is lost in fearful imaginings.
Worrying seems so normal though. It's like you don't care about something, like you're not being responsible if you don't worry.
Worry and other such futile forms of thinking are so ingrained in the human mind, and our collective experience of life is so driven by it, that we can't see it for what it is. Worry is taking all the fear and confusion that your human mind has accumulated from the past and creating an imaginary future with it, and a scary one at that. In reality, the ego knows nothing about the possibilities of the future. It only knows its own confused perceptions of the past. To justify this confused way of thinking, the ego looks into the past and says, "Considering what the past has been for me, I am just being realistic." What the ego does not stop to realize, however, is that because of its fearing and worrying, it is out of touch with what is right in front of it, and out of touch with the greater awareness of its soul and higher self. As a result, it continually makes poor decisions that keep attracting to it the same old unhappy experiences. The ego is the unhappy author of its own drama. Instead of being lost in our own self-created scary movie, we can look squarely at what is the reality in front of us and work with it as positively as we can. Always a large part of gaining self-awareness is sorting out our own human mind by paying attention to and taking compassionate responsibility for our confusion and negative emotions this confusion creates. It is this inner work, and only this, that enables us to have the clarity to see the reality of what is in front of us. It would be a safe prediction to say that our future won't be bright if we spend our time worrying and indulging in other destructive forms of thinking, such as resenting and beating ourselves up with guilt and so on. Our future depends on how we take care of ourselves today and every day
I have such trouble sometimes when it comes to taking charge of my life. When I am faced with some new challenge, I get bogged down with fear of failure, with the fear of things going wrong. This is not surprising really, because when I do make a human mistake, I tend to beat myself up so much. Why is that? Why do we tend to do that to ourselves? No wonder so few people really reach their potential.
Much of it is because we were not mentored properly as children. Unrealistic expectations placed on children to get things right first time is a very sad and common theme. As a therapist, this is one of the most common stories my clients share with me as I am trying to get to the bottom of why their life is not working for them. Once their awareness is awakened to the destructiveness of this form of discipline, it is often a shock to my clients to realize how much their lives have been affected by it. And not just in childhood. We are placing these sorts of expectations on one another all the time. In reality, one of the most joyful and satisfying experiences a child can have is the freedom and encouragement to explore new things. We do this using what's called trial and error, which is a normal human way to learn things. For a child, there is a certain thrill about approaching a new project in various different ways, suffering a bit of frustration at times, but with some gentle guidance and encouragement, finally mastering a new skill. If the parental guidance is appropriate, what the child will remember the most is the excitement of the achievement. All the mistakes and frustrations along the way will not be regarded as a problem, rather they will be regarded as the natural stepping stones to success. As a result of this positive mentoring, the child grows up confident in his or her natural abilities and creative power. Disappointments are taken in one stride without a sense of reduced self-worth. How different it is when a child is pressured to get a task right the first time, and then criticized and ridiculed when he/she naturally lacks understanding or stumbles over new challenges of coordination and problem solving. Fear and shame quickly invades the experience, and trying new things soon becomes a source of anxiety. Lack of self-confidence and creativity is the inevitable result, along with a retarded ability to effectively face life's challenges. In reality, trial and error is a natural, normal, and essential mode of learning for any human being. Denying this is a fast track to suffering. Everything takes time to learn, no matter how academically clever we are, no matter how naturally adept we may be at something. Playing golf is a good analogy for this. Just ask Deepak Chopra. You can digest a library full of golf books and DVDs, but it is a very different matter when it comes to placing that little white ball onto the tee and slogging it straight and high down the fairway, especially if there's a group of onlookers. If you think learning to play golf is hard, try changing old ingrained habits, such as regret or worry. It can be done, but it takes time, effort, and a lot of trial and error. It is impossible to grasp the nuances of such complex tasks in a short time. Repeated experience is required to simply gain awareness of what there is to grasp. Accept, in each moment, the experience of your attempts at mastering something new. Embrace the experience of trial and error. It is far easier to stay open to learning what there is to learn if you do. This is mastering the now.
I can only do my best in each moment and learn as I go. To see that trial and error is a natural way to learn anything certainly takes the pressure off. Even so, with that in mind, I can still see myself struggling with my critical perfectionism.
But that is a part of that moment's experience as well. It means that you need to slow down so you can stay aware of what your old self-defeating thought habits are doing to you. As part of the experience, you need to accept that these old states of mind will come up, and allow yourself to take time out on a regular basis to do some step 3 healing work on yourself. Our ego has a tendency to think that it has got it all figured out. We don't truly know if we have genuinely learned something, however, until we have attempted to put it into action. More often than not, our ego discovers that there is a lot more to learn. The ego's pride tends to get upset at this and falls into self-condemnation, blame or denial. The ego just makes it hard for itself. When we accept that our life is a journey of continual learning, we can then more harmoniously work with what comes our way, rather than be in a conflict with it. We can see that every moment is an opportunity to accept our humanness, to know ourselves better and to gain a greater mastery of ourselves. We can relax into the moment we are in and see the benefits of it. We can also be more aware of what our human mind is doing with that moment and how it gets itself all tangled up and lost. We can step forward with our conscious awareness, our open heart, and be the skillful manager of our lives. We can do this because by practicing steps 1, 2 and 3, we can feel what is going on within us and know, or at least discover, what these feelings mean in regards to caring for our vulnerable humanness and honouring our potential.
Perseverance is my problem. I set plenty of goals, but I don't stick at them. I become easily distracted.
Putting this process into action requires discipline. Discipline in the form of persistence, determination, and structure is essential for facing life's challenges and creating the life that you want. Discipline brings with it freedom to be who you want to be, but only if the discipline serves the heart, the greater principles of your higher self.
What do you mean by discipline that serves the heart? The word discipline reminds me of autocratic people barking orders at me. Maybe that's why I resist it so much. I associate discipline with having my freedom taken away from me.
Unfortunately, for many people, the word discipline brings up bad memories of being dominated by unskillful parents or other mentors. When a child is disciplined with unrealistic expectations and harsh judgment, necessary guidance becomes oppressive and soul-destroying. The child either gives up, rebels, or becomes an unthinking conformist or an unfeeling perfectionist on the road to a heart attack before the age of 50. Depression, anger and anxiety are common consequences. When the discipline is erratic or contradictory, the child becomes confused and scattered. There can be a lack of consistency in adult life, leading to many disappointments. The individual's character can often lack sincerity, trust and trustworthiness. When the child gets little discipline, little mentoring, there is again that shallowness and lack of commitment. Depression and various habits of trying to escape life may develop because we don't learn how to face challenges. In contrast, when discipline is rightly employed, our conscious awareness develops a great strength of will that serves our highest good. Setting up and persisting with daily routines such as reading self-awareness material, journaling in the form of writing out our thoughts and feelings and mapping our goals and keeping track of them, and meditating to stay aware of what our mind is up to is very important. This process of caring for our human self on an ongoing basis develops an ability to stay above the old confusions. Through reading, journaling and meditation, new life-sustaining habits are built into our mind because of our consistent action that overwrite our old self-defeating habits.
It all seems like a lot of hard work.
Achieving any worthy goal takes effort. It comes back to steps 1 and 2, accepting total personal responsibility for loving yourself unconditionally. It is your life. You have the power. You have the authority. It will only happen if you make it happen. Discipline is made much easier, though, when you chop it up into small chunks. Life is lived in small moments, which go together to make a bigger moment, like a day or a week. Don't get lost in the big picture. Conserve your energy by focusing on the now. Do that the best you can in the moment you have. Stop then and take time to learn from your experience. Every small effort is taking you forward. Only giving up or beating yourself up is taking you nowhere. Tomorrow is a new day. There is always a new opportunity to put into practice what you have learned from the previous moment. Here is an example of how to prepare yourself to make the most of your day. Take a moment before you get out of bed. Open up your journal. Briefly map out what you have to do that day. Get conscious of it. Have a brief look at the things you need to be aware of about yourself that might get in your way that day. Take a deep breath and open your heart to your humanness and make a commitment to yourself to take care of your mind that day. Then make a point of being prepared to accept everything that comes your way and see it as an opportunity to grow. Spend a bit of time being grateful for all that you have. Then ask your higher self to support you and guide you throughout the day. You are then focused for the day. Your conscious awareness is awake, and you are in a good position to consciously do more with that day than you normally would.
I am hearing here that the key is to take real ownership of my life and then consciously manage it on a daily basis.
That's right. Get in the driver's seat and start driving where you want to go, while accepting your humanness and working with it as part of that process. Focusing on and making the most of each moment sets you up in the best possible way for the next moment. Even if you completely stuff up one moment, you always have the next to try again, armed with what you have learned. In a way, there is no tomorrow to worry about. There is only now. When tomorrow comes, it will be a new set of now moments, and you will be ready for it. If you want to climb a mountain, start with the rock in front of you, and then the next one, and so on. It is how we do the journey, including taking care of our human self along the way, that makes all the difference.
You mentioned a higher power, or life force. Isn't that just another word for God?
Certainly, but it is your relationship with that higher power, with God. It comes directly through you. As part of taking charge of your life, it is essential that you relate to the God of your understanding in a way that feels right for you. I don't believe God has a preference as to how you relate to it. I think the important thing is putting the principles into action, to embody them, to be love, in other words. This will enhance your life as well as everyone around you.
You mentioned being in partnership with God. How do I do that? How do I bring that sort of power into my life?
The power of conscious awareness comes from the fact that our higher self rests eternally in the present moment, above and beyond all past conditioning. Pure consciousness, free of ego, is also independent of the base survival instincts of the human self. Within this aware consciousness is the knowing that no matter what comes and goes in the turbulent mind, consciousness can remain still and tranquil, ready to act. From consciousness comes our ability to observe our life from a higher perspective and to sense our potential beyond the constrictions of conditioning and environment. Consciousness is the power of choice. Due to the fact that it resides in the now, it has the power to learn and adapt, whereas the human self is stuck in habit and bound to the past. When our consciousness aligns with the superconsciousness of the higher self, it is able to discern the truth of reality the natural laws of the supreme consciousness. From the power of this knowing, or even just shades of it, the confusions of the human self can be seen for what they are. Without the guiding principles of unconditional love and total personal responsibility, however, consciousness has no real power and descends into being mere ego. Without the power of this greater knowing, the ego is held captive and under the control of the confusion and primal instincts of the human self. The human self only displays the pseudo-powers of false pride and fight or flight. This is reflected in the greed, self-righteousness, aggressiveness and cowardice of empty materialism or narrow-minded fundamentalism. When we choose to accept ourselves as we are and commit to taking personal responsibility, to lovingly care for our own mind and body, then a powerful force for good is initiated into our lives. Consciousness is like a higher will. In order for it to be this powerful force in our lives, it must be activated. We must actively exercise our power of choice and parent our lives. When we do this, the power of our higher self is accessed and can be channeled into our lives by doing our best to be the representative of that love in our lives. I'm going to go a bit deeper now into the process of consciously creating the life that you want. One of the outstanding qualities of the human being is the power to create. In Neale Donald Walsch's book, A Conversations with God, this reality is pointed out very clearly. The first 28 pages basically says it all. What Conversations with God also points out is that we deny most of what we create. You just have to look at the world around us to see what a mess it has become. Someone has created that, but no one wants to own up to it. Of course, it is the collective handiwork of all of us, and it is not going to change until we each individually and radically change the way we view life and create our reality. We need to create a reality that is more in tune with our heart, a reality that is in tune with the natural flow of life itself. Most of us just don't comprehend that our subconscious minds are creating much of what goes on in our lives without us being aware of it. The ability of our subconscious minds to create is amazingly powerful. This is because it does not doubt itself. It runs on unthinking habit. As I have already pointed out, it is just a recording mechanism. From the age of 0 to about 12, the record button is basically on constantly, with very little filtering. This conscious filtering ability does not come until we develop an independent thinking mind as teenagers. Then it is too late. As children, our minds are wide open to take on board with very little awareness or discrimination any information that comes our way. Some of it is very good and useful. Unfortunately, though, so much of this information is nothing but the delusions, fears, insecurities, biases, hates, prejudices, and the general confusions of those around us. Our minds become filled with rubbish, and we don't even know it. In fact, we become so used to having this rubbish cluttering up our minds that we end up identifying with it. We unwittingly think that this is who we are. Furthermore, we vehemently hang on to the right to keep living according to the dictates of all this nonsense, despite the overwhelming evidence staring us right in the face of what it is doing to us and the world. These habitual confusions in our subconscious minds are responsible for the dysfunctional relationships we attract to ourselves. This confusion is responsible for all the addictions we have. It is responsible for all the pollution and destruction we create in the environment, our very own habitat. It is responsible for all the hurt that we feel, and the hurt that we perpetrate onto others. It is responsible for all the wars that are fought in the world and all the situations that lead to war being an unnecessary consequence. It is responsible for all the confusion we project onto our children. Such is the power of our habitual subconscious minds. Imagine what we could do with this mind if we pointed it consistently in the right direction. Imagine if we served love with this mind and not fear. Our subconscious mind is already merrily going about its business, creating the life that you have now. How much of your life do you think your subconscious mind is creating compared to your conscious mind? The big question is how to consciously create the reality that you do want. It is said that creation starts with thought. Few of us realize that thought is a physical force. It is easier to relate to the emotions that thought creates as a physical force. When an angry person walks into a room full of people, the energy of this person is immediately picked up by the more sensitive individuals even before facial expressions, for example, are registered. We are radiating energy all the time. We are constantly engaging in an energy exchange beyond our common awareness. Our mind is a constant stream of force that has an effect on nature, on reality as we know it. So why doesn't our reality change when you want it to? For a number of reasons. We have already talked about one of them. Your unconscious mind keeps beating you to the creating game. The other reason can be found by learning from the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind creates from a constant stream of unwavering belief. It has no reason to doubt itself because it can't think past what is recorded onto it. If you want to create consciously, therefore, you must have a strong conscious faith in what you believe in and stick to it in the face of all obstacles. You can potentially have control of what you create, whether this belief is in accordance with the ultimate laws of nature or not. Your constant force of will make sure it will happen anyway. However, what you create will not ultimately bring you fulfillment, and collectively you will be a part of the problem and not the solution. In order to be a part of the solution for this world, you need to have a good stock of what Buddhism calls right view, right intent. Back to serving love by thinking with your feeling and being committed to take full personal responsibility for what you create. This is also steps 1 and 2 of the 5-step process. When you have a vision of what you want to create, you have already manifested a reality, but only on the dimension of the mental mind. This more subtle manifestation has to keep crystallizing into a denser and denser form. Constant focused thought is one of the forces that creates this crystallizing effect. Another creative force is acting as if. In other words, start acting as though you have already achieved what you set out to achieve. Now this can be a bit tricky. If you want to be a millionaire, it would perhaps be wise not to start spending your money as though you already have $1 million. You may instead create the reality of bankruptcy. I am talking more about right attitude. For example, worrying about your lack of money will only attract more lack of money. Worry is a fear-based reaction, not an action from the conscious awareness, but it is a creative force nonetheless. A conscious action is about paying attention to the now moment. What can you do towards creating the abundance now? If the answer is nothing, then worrying is not going to change the situation. Worry is about trying to control the future, but in a futile way. You in fact will control the future, but in a way that keeps it unsatisfactory, because you are not taking responsibility for this moment. If there is nothing further that you can do in this moment to move toward your goal, then be grateful for what you have in the moment. This keeps you open for more to come. Also be grateful for your vision in an unattached way, as though you already have it, and that its ultimate creation is inevitable. This will help attract it to you. Also, actively work on clearing out fears and insecurities that keep you worrying. If there is something you can actually do to help you get a step closer to your goal, then go and do it. Act, don't react. Act by consciously taking responsibility for your mind. Let's lay this creative process out in point form then. Point 1. Serve unconditional love, not fear. Point 2. Learn to hear the guidance from your inner master. Think with your feeling. Point 3. Align your thinking and beliefs to a set of solid principles, such as the 5-step process, and faithfully serve them. Point 4. Create your vision carefully. Point 5. Stay focused on your vision consistently and persistently. Point 6. Stay positively present in the now moment. Act consciously, don't react. 7. Be grateful for all that you have in each moment. Point 8. In your attitude, act as if you have already achieved what you want, because if you can imagine it, in a way, it is already a part of you. It already belongs to you. You are already worthy of it. Point 9. You are already worthy of everything that you want, everything that you wish to create. This worthiness is fundamental and absolute. You do not have to create it in order to be worthy. Recognize, believe, understand, claim your worthiness now. It will make it much easier to stay motivated to achieve that goal. Point 10. Continually take care of the fears and insecurities that are activated from your unconscious mind once you step out of your comfort zones. By doing this, will ensure that your path stays smooth and your way is consistent. We all want a successful and fulfilling life. Success is often measured in terms of financial and material wealth, power, status, or popularity. However, succeeding in these areas of human endeavour does not necessarily mean achieving true fulfilment. All too often, the gains in one area of our life are at the expense of another. For example, financial success may come at the expense of personal relationships, or popularity may come at the expense of being able to just be ourselves whenever we want. Such success looks glamorous from the outside, but can come at a high price, like we have sold our soul for the privilege. We talk so much about the haves and the have-nots. Whether we have material wealth or not, however, true fulfillment and contentment can be just as elusive. It is interesting how much effort, sacrifice and struggle we are willing to put into a university degree, for example, in order to get that safe job with financial security. But when it comes to following our heart, that seems too hard. And yet, years down the track, we find ourselves looking back with regret, wondering what it would have been like if we did follow our heart. Following our heart may or may not mean material wealth. It may also mean that we must face many challenges in our life. There is something higher, something greater in us that is fulfilled by this journey, that makes it all worthwhile. This ensures that in our later years, when we look back over our journey, we know we have lived a life worth living, and we know we have somehow added to the whole, for that is the nature of the heart. The heart can't just go along for the ride. When we follow our heart, ultimately everyone benefits, and we win also because we become that higher, greater part of ourselves. Often we have tried to succeed in a desired goal and have suffered failure and disappointment, and are left perhaps feeling cheated, bitter and depressed. For many of us, our dreams don't move beyond the dreaming stage. We may feel we lack the opportunity, resources, skills and courage to take the risk and have a go. We do not dare leave the safety of our comfort zones. There is an old saying that speaks of this very thing. This saying talks about the hard road and the easy road. The way of the heart often, at first, appears to be the hard road, but if faced with courage and determination, sooner or later it becomes the easy road. In contrast, taking the easy road to avoid life's risks and challenges ends up to be the harder road. Achieving the success we dream of may indeed be a long, hard road at first, but it is a road well worth taking, and it does not necessarily mean taking big risks. It will require commitment and persistence, however, and a good knowledge of the universal principles of success and fulfillment. Such knowledge is not that difficult to learn. The real difficulty for most people seems to be the unlearning. In other words, letting go of what we think we know to make room for new ways of relating to ourselves and the world that actually work. Also, so much of what we do, we are not even conscious of why we do it. Our unconscious mind is running our life based on past habitual thought patterns that were often set in our mind in childhood. Often this unconscious behaviour does not bring us what we want, but we don't know how to switch it off. It is fair to say that if we want a job promotion, we need to have the qualifications to receive it. If you wish to live your dreams, you need to be prepared to learn what it takes to do so. And I am not talking here about head knowledge. I am talking about wisdom. Wisdom is heart knowledge that is only gained through lived experience. Wisdom is something that life teaches us. Life does this by challenging our fears and insecurities, because it knows that our fears and insecurities are our biggest stumbling block to success and fulfillment. It is the facing of oneself, the inner journey, that is the true test. It is the facing of our fears that makes following our heart look like the hard road at first, but this is what our soul seems to long for. It is within this pain and struggle that our true potential is born, how our ability to discover and master the secrets of life is achieved. It is also within the willingness to live life, to open to life fully, that the true joy of living is found. Living in our limited comfort zone is a bit like being a bird that got so comfortable in its nest it never got around to learning to fly. Or due to having its spirit trampled on a bit too much, when still a chick, the bird lacks confidence. It is afraid to do what should come naturally. As a result, every time life comes along to push the bird out of the nest so that it can take to the wing and reach its potential, the bird instead quickly steps aside to avoid having to leave the nest. In fact, we have created a whole society of nest dwellers who then fill the nest full of goodies and gadgets to keep themselves entertained as a substitute for flying. The 5-step process, and other processes like it, is designed to guide you through this inner journey, the hero's journey, as it is often called. It is this inner journey that is symbolized in the myths and legends of the ages, as well as our modern myths, such as Star Wars. We love hearing of these legends, and we are inspired by these tales. But the ultimate question is, Are you willing to enter on to the path of your own quest? Those who have truly achieved a balance of success and fulfillment know that their own ongoing personal development is the key. Not only that, they have discovered the ability to face, work through, and benefit from any challenge that life places in their path. Genuine personal freedom and peace of mind is the result of facing life's challenges, not avoiding them. Having achieved a degree of mastery in this inner journey, success and fulfillment becomes a way of life. Its meaning is measured by how we approach life with maturity and balance. For example, being successful in business whilst also having the time and ability to be a loving, sensitive, playful yet powerfully inspiring mentor to our children that inspires them to be who they truly are. So are you ready to step onto your path, your quest for a successful and fulfilling life? Are you ready to face the challenges that await you and claim the treasure that each challenge offers those who don't give up? Are you ready to humbly face your limiting attitudes and turn them into stepping stones of self-realization? Are you willing to learn what it takes to succeed, to be the apprentice to the master, which is life itself? Are you ready to shine your light and to be an inspiration to others simply by your determination not to let go of your dreams? Are you ready to be a part of the solution for this world, to be a path for others to follow? Know also that you are entering the path of love, for love is the ultimate empowering force of the universe. You will be the servant of love, wise, powerful, universal love, the slayer of fear, strife and lack, the bringer of balance, harmony, joy and abundance. You will also enter into a great brother-sisterhood of conscious beings who knowingly serve this greatest of universal forces. On some level, they will all be with you as you make your way along your path. On some level, you will be watched over, observed, and actively guided. You need no one's permission to enter this path. Your determined forward steps enters you into the fold, and the quality of your motivation is like a beacon light that can't help but attract the helping hand. What attracts the most attention of these guiding forces of life is your commitment to walk on regardless, to reach deeper into your own inner light, the light of your higher self and beyond, whenever you feel yourself running on empty. It is within your own heart that you will find the well of abundance that never runs dry, and where you will find your connection to all things. With heart willing and open, accept from this moment on, with unyielding gratitude, all that life brings you every day, one day at a time. Contained within every day will be all that you need. Know also that you are human. Know that you will forget your pledge. Know that you will forget to be grateful. This is not a failure. It is simply human nature. Let each experience of forgetfulness be an opportunity to remember the laws of consciousness on an even deeper level. It is the overall commitment that is important, not whether you get it right or not all the time. Trial and error is the natural human learning path. Let us move on now to step 5, the final step, live the process. I will start with the usual condensed summary. There is no moment in life that does not contain a lesson. Without an effective process for healing, wisdom and self-empowerment, we are travelling blind in a world of confusion. Having a solid process to guide us ensures that we grow in awareness of these lessons and learn from them effectively. Being totally committed to such a process means that it becomes a normal way of life. Every experience in life becomes an opportunity to expand our consciousness and transcend our suffering. We do this by facing life directly and by keeping our heart open to the way our humanness reacts to life's circumstances. In this way, our humanness is continually being lifted into the light of our awakened consciousness, resulting in an ongoing self-realization journey. As we gain a deeper understanding of this new way of thinking, we soon realize that we have the ability to face anything that crosses our path. We then have something to give to others, because we are learning how to remain open to receive from the light of awareness from our own soul and beyond, which is directly connected to the source of life itself. End of summary. If your life is not working for you for some reason or another, it is essential to stop blaming yourself or other people or circumstances for your predicament. Instead, directly but compassionately face up to your own self-defeating beliefs. Changing yourself is the quickest way to changing your world. At first, facing ourselves and trying to make positive changes in our lives can be confusing and difficult. We may have been living out these self-defeating patterns for many years. Our life and the people in it may be representative of these patterns. When we start making changes in our lives, we may run up against resistance from others who have become dependent on the status quo. There is all too often a temptation to become lost in struggle and conflict, trying to change other people and convince them of our point of view. This is a waste of time and energy, and portrays a lack of understanding and acceptance of human nature. It is normal to want to resist change. The ego is always looking for the comfort zone of what it knows based on its past. The secret is to get on with your own life and not react to other people's reactions. When we just get on with taking responsibility for our own life regardless, people soon get the message. Positive action always speaks louder than words, and inevitably gains respect. Below I have listed an extended list of the laws of consciousness. Myself and countless others around the world, and also throughout the ages, have spent years researching these natural laws, this perennial wisdom. We have put this wisdom into practice in our own lives and have reaped the benefits. This summary contains 10 laws, my version of the 10 Commandments, if you like. 1. Recognize unconditional love as the ultimate life-giving force in the universe, and uncompromisingly dedicate yourself to living this ideal. Strive to make unconditional love the motive for all that you think, feel, say, and do. 2. Take total personal responsibility for your life. In other words, compassionately care for yourself, particularly your human vulnerabilities. The more you do this, the more you will know how to care for others. In this act of loving kindness, you will find the source of unconditional love. 3. Even though we all have different capabilities, we are all equal in worth, and at all times we are all deserving of loving acceptance, kindness and compassion, without exception, and that means every human being, which includes you too. 4. Practice daily a self-awakening, self-healing, self-loving process that sets you on a journey toward being a living example of unconditional love for the benefit of yourself and all beings. 5. Accept and learn from the past. Make plans and set goals for the future, but always live and act in the now. For there you will find the center of universal power. 6. Avoid making decisions that are designed to punish others for your emotional hurts. This is the source of so much pain and destruction in the world. Instead, for all decisions you choose to make them in the spirit of your highest perception of unconditional love for yourself. Such decisions are more likely to benefit yourself and all others in the long run. 7. You have the right to look after yourself and to say no when necessary. Saying no does not cancel out unconditional love. You do not have to judge or hate someone in order to choose not to agree with them or to not associate with them. 8. When you fall out of unconditional love, know that you are confused. It is your adult responsibility to honestly face this confusion and heal it. 9. Staying in a state of unconditional love depends on no one but yourself. As a being of consciousness, you have total power over your mind. Accessing that power depends on your growing awareness and your willingness to act on that awareness. 10. Love and respect Mother Earth and her abundant nature, for you are a vital cell in her living body. There are countless ways these laws can be written, so long as their foundation is unconditional love and total personal responsibility. They will be of benefit to you. Their fundamental nature inevitably confronts our ego and throws up 1,000 questions in our mind. The reason for this is that these laws cannot be comprehended by our human self and its ego, because this lower level of mind is fear-based. Like a child, our human self needs a guardian to look after it. Only conscious awareness, aligned to the higher self, comprehends these principles because this higher mind is centered in love. Actively taking loving care of our humanness is an effective way to awaken our consciousness to this higher reality, simply because love is the only thing that heals. It is the only reality. Everything else is confusion. By being the representative of unconditional love to our own vulnerable human self, we place ourselves in the position of experiencing the power of unconditional love directly through our own consciousness. There is no compromising of the ideal of these principles, if true inner healing and self-realization is our goal. Even so, it is not about having to be perfect. We are human beings on a journey toward these life-giving ideals. What is important is accepting the validity of these ideals and being willing to do our best to live them every day for the rest of our lives. Every step along this path brings benefit to our lives. If we persist, despite the confusions of our humanness, we soon discover how incredibly beautiful life can be, even with the occasional pain and struggle. Getting it right is a matter of a naturally growing self-mastery born out of trial and error, and a commitment to never give up on ourselves. Step 5, Live the Process, is about recognizing and accepting that life is a journey of continual growth in wisdom and maturity. When we accept this level of responsibility in our lives, the key to our highest potential is in our hands. It is our confused ego that says we should be magically happy without actually making the effort to learn how to create happiness in our lives. This confused part of our mind is still waiting for Mum and Dad to finish the job, but this is not going to happen. And there is grieving we all have to go through around this. Our current loved ones can't do the job for us either. It is too much for one human being to take on that job for another. Because of our lack of knowledge and faith in the laws of conscious awareness, and a lack of belief in ourselves, we also have trouble trusting in others. We only tend to give self-improvement programs half an effort at the most, and then say, "See, I told you it wasn't going to work." Step 5 urges us to confront this confused thinking and finally see that it is this type of thinking that robs us of the life that deep down we know we can have. We are freer to get serious and take responsibility for our lives when we accept that it is okay to be human. Accepting ourselves also means accepting that we have naturally got what it takes to overcome our problems, even though we don't at first know how to access our inner potential. If we never give up and refuse to see so-called failure as defeat, but instead just another opportunity to grow, we will find the personal power to manage anything that life can throw at us. In fact, feeling such personal power becomes exciting, and personal growth becomes a natural and desired way of life. Freedom from suffering is a state of mind. You can be restricted physically beyond your control, but your mind is totally your own. The way you take care of your mind has enormous influence in every aspect of your life. The relationship between your conscious awareness and the rest of your being, higher and lower, is your life's foundation. From this perspective, life is definitely what you make it. Therefore, from this moment on, take your mind into your own hands as best you can and step into the positive flow of life and start living. If you persist, no matter what, you will experience the power and freedom of your growing conscious awareness. That's it for the show, and the third and final part of this 3-part introduction to the 5-step process of healing, wisdom, and empowerment. There is, of course, much more to say about real healing, real awakening, and the 5-step process, and we will naturally explore more from week to week as the show progresses. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, please feel free to email me any questions that you may have, and I will do my best to answer them within the show. I hope you have enjoyed and benefited from this 3-part introduction to real healing, real awakening. Next week I will be talking to one of my long-term students. He will be sharing his personal experience of putting this process into his life and how that process has transformed his life. And in the time we have left, I will be answering some general questions that may not have been covered during this 3-part introductory series. Be a guardian angel to yourself, and love will always warm your heart. For wisdom is intelligent love in action,